Greetings and salutations, good citizens. This is Laz. This is the Fright Club. I say, welcome on back, good citizens. Very nice to see you today. Now, today, what we're going to be covering, I'm sure you know because you saw the thumbnail or you read the title, because I doubt anyone's going to click on something with my ugly face on it, you know what I'm saying? So, what I'm going to cover today is something I think a bit different than what I've seen usually on YouTube. This last week, actually no, this weekend, not this weekend. That's a lie. What's wrong with you, Mike? This week, Monday, I watched the TV movie version of it, and then I decided the next day to watch Chapter 1 and 2 of the theatrical cut. And I thought, you know what, it'd be interesting because my personal preference is the TV movie, so I think it'd be kind of cool to kind of go over what I prefer, why I prefer it, what I think that gets more right than the theatrical version, and just kind of start a dialogue type stuff. And usually I see it where on YouTube it's the theatrical version is better than the TV version, and why. So I thought maybe I'd flip the coin a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up. Today I'm going to be covering Chapter 1 of both, like the kid stories from both the TV movie and the theatrical movie. Before I start, though, I do want to say that there are going to be spoilers. I'm going to spoil plot points from both the TV movie and the theatrical movie. But also, there's going to be minor spoilers for the book. So, if you don't want to have any spoilers, if you want to go either watch or rewatch the the TV movie and the theatrical movie, then come on back. Cool. If you want to read the book first, hey, this is on the internet, so I'm gonna be here no matter how long it takes you. All right. With that being said, before I start, I'd also want to say this. I know I'm 100% positive people who see the title, the thumbnail, and me, and basically say, well, you only prefer the TV movie because through nostalgia glasses, like you're seeing it through the lens of nostalgia. You're gonna give preferential treatment. And to that, I reply with this: you may be right a little bit. However, I will also fight back with, I know there are faults in the TV movie. I know there are faults, and I'm gonna go over them when I think of them. So it's not like I think it's perfect. I just prefer it. So, and also now, with that out of the way, I want to go through what I like about Chapter 1 of the theatrical version. I don't want to just rip into it. And I also want to say that these are my opinions. These are my opinions only. So, if you disagree, cool. Like, if you love the theatrical version and you prefer it, that's awesome. I am not saying anyone's wrong with that opinion. If that's your preferred version, cool. Like I said before, I grew up with the TV movie version. And I'm pretty sure there are those whose their first exposure to a live action Pennywise is the theatrical cut. So down the line, if they ever do a YouTube video, or let's say there's going to be another retelling or readaptation of it, they'll be able to go, well, no, my favorite version is the 2017 or 2018 version. More power to you. I have no problem with that. So just understand, no disrespect. I am not saying anyone's wrong or for having an opinion different from mine. I'm not saying it at all. So now I'm going to go again with what I like about Chapter 1. What I really like about Chapter 1 is they have a good mood, the mood is there, like the tension, the idea that the monster, the evil, can attack anywhere and attack any time, and that Pennywise is a form that can be your worst nightmare. I really like that. I really love it. I love Bill Skarsgård's portrayal of Pennywise. Like, I absolutely love the way he does it. He comes off really, really creepy. And even when he's, like in the beginning, when he's enticing Georgie when he's in the storm drain, he comes off like I can see he has the playful side, but even the playful side has that undertinge of menace, which I really like. And I think Skarsgård does an amazing performance. I just think it's hampered a little bit by CGI and boo scares. And that's just me. And my other thing is because I want when you compare that to the Tim Curry version, the Tim Curry's version is the same thing. Like it has an air of menace, and like in his sequence where he's with Georgie, same thing where he's happy, he's playful, he's showing Georgie the balloons, telling him they can float, and getting Georgie to reach in and grab his boat. I can't explain it, but Tim Curry's, I can almost see how he would, for lack of a better term, seduce a kid into, going into the darkness to get some stuff and trusting the clown in the dream. Like, I understand that a bit more. And my reasoning behind that is kind of simple, at least for me. The kids part of the TV version is much like the book, is set in the 1950s, whereas the theatrical version is in the 80s. And I think that's a bit of a downfall, a bit of a negative for the theatrical version, because in the book, Stephen King basically says that when kids see Pennywise in the 50s, like when Georgie sees him, he immediately compares in the Bozo the Clown, and because that's what we see, like his brain goes, oh, it's like Bozo the Clown. That's what he looks like. And then in the 80s, like Stephen King said, if George was born in the 80s, he would see him kind of as Ronald McDonald, which to me shows that Pennywise will take the shape of what kids will drop their guard around. Like, oh, it's a clown. He's safe. He's funny. I remember this, so I'll reach in there. And that's how he entices people. Whereas in the theatrical version, like that Pennywise looks creepy as hell. I'm not going to deny that. He looks creepy as balls. And that's the problem. Because the 80s were the era of stranger danger. You had, parents were really hammering home they don't go home with strangers to their kids. It was getting drilled into our heads. There were film strips. We watched like legit movies about don't go home with strangers. Don't talk to strangers. And the 80s was also the era of the Adam Walsh case. I'm not going to go into specifics, but Google it, kids, if you don't know what I'm talking about. You'll see what happened. Now, and to me, with this era of stranger danger, there is no kid who's going to be fooled into any trap by that creepy ass clown. To me, that's just not going to happen. Not in that time frame. Whereas the 50s, I can't go from experience because I lived through the, like I was a child in the 80s, so I can speak for that for the fact. But in the 50s, to me, it seems more kids would be more apt to do something like that. In my head, that's just how I see it. I can be totally wrong, by the way, but again, I wasn't alive in the 50s. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer the TV movie. So I'll bring that down there. And also, Pennywise killing Georgie sets up your movie. Like, that's your first introduction to Pennywise. That's your first big moment. It's basically the catalyst that starts. It's the first domino that falls that starts everything with the losers. So your movie hinges on that. Now, I know that the TV movie has a lot of limits because it was shown on prime time for 2 nights on ABC, so you'd have to go by standards and practices and what they had told you. So I always keep that in mind. I always tell people who watch it for the first time to keep that in mind, because TV in the early 90s, was not the same as TV today. Like, you couldn't show beheadings and other types of gore, like you can get away with on TV today. You couldn't in 19 I think it was 1990 when this was aired. So just keep that in mind. And when I compare both these movies, I'm not comparing gore or what have you. To me, that's apples and oranges. I was going by the story and the acting. So, the death of Georgie, big moment. And in the TV version, it's scary. It's underscored because of what you have, but it's scary because it's still kind of sudden, and it's a kid getting killed. In the theatrical version, Georgie dies, and I laugh. I just laugh. It looks so silly, especially when Pennywise pulls him into the drain. I just laughed, and I remember laughing. I looked at my roommate and went, "That's a bad sign, because that's not good." So the TV movie wins there. Now I'm going to get to the losers. I prefer the TV version of the losers too, and any negative thing I say about any portrayals or versions of the theatrical version, I am not knocking anyone, like any of the kids, adults, any actor or actresses for any of their part or any of their portrayals. They were following the script, they were following their directions. So I'm not downplaying anybody or try to be negative towards them. But the kids in the TV version, just to me, felt more polished, if that makes any sense. But they felt truer to the sense of the book as well. You had the late Jonathan Brandis as Bill Denbrough. You had Emily Perkins as Bev, and Seth Green as Richie Tozer. And you had other people, but those are the three I know because I followed not their careers, but they've been in other things that I've seen. But you have a solid kid cast, and they all play their parts, and they're all written really well, and they're written more like what they are in the book. Like Bill is a storyteller. Ben helps them build the dam, so he's basically your builder. He's your architect. Bev is the one who's the best shot, so she's the one who's basically there to take the weekend and take out Pennywise. And Mike is your historian. Like he's the one that has the backstory of Derry and the appearances of Pennywise. Whereas in the theatrical version, they don't set up Bill being the storyteller. Ben's not an architect in the first version, at least in chapter 1. And they absolutely do Mike dirty, in my opinion, because they give Mike's skill of being the historian of Derry to Ben. I don't know why, because there's no point to that. And for some reason, Beverly turns out to be a damsel in distress at the end of chapter 1, which I hate. And out of the kids, in the theatrical version, I really like Bill. I like Ben, and my favorite loser in the theatrical version was Beverly. I thought she was awesome. I thought she nailed the book. I really did. And like both group of kids had the same dynamics to the point where Bill was the leader in both. And that's another downside for the theatrical version because there's that sequence where Bill punches Richie and they break up. Like the losers kind of separate, and I'm sitting there going, no, that wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't. Like in the book, they never have any issues like that. Like Bill, basically, like the whole the losers will follow Bill. They'll follow Bill into hell, and they literally do, because he's their leader. Like he's the one that they listen to. So, for me, that didn't ring true. For me. And now I'm going to compare the Henry Bowerses. The Henry Bowers in the TV version is freaking evil. Like, he's sinister. Like, he comes off as this evil little bitch. Like, evil son of a bitch. Like, like, he drips menace. So the performance is spot on. The writing is spot on. Like, this kid does a great job of being pure walking evil. And I mean, granted, like, he doesn't really cut Ben because you can't show that, but he threatens him. He threatens Mike. He threatens Bev. Like, everything he does. Like, I've been bullied for 12 years of my life in school. I never once had one of my bullies threaten to kill me. So to me, he's pure evil. Whereas in the theatrical one, to me, he was just a big goof. Like, yeah, I mean, he was a dick. And, you know, he was a bully and everything. And yeah, he winds up cutting Ben, but, like, he just comes off as this big doof to me. And although the one plus size for that version is that him killing his father with the knife against the throat, that's exactly from the book. Like, the TV telling him to kill him, I don't remember if that's in the book. But him putting the blade up against the knife going click, that's straight from the book. So that was awesome. I really did enjoy that. But I don't know, he just felt flat to me in the theatrical version. And when it comes to following the book, neither one is 100%. Just can't be. I understand that. But both versions have different set pieces or different elements from it. Like, the TV version has the Barrens, and it has it has the Barrens, like, it has where the kids hang out. It has them building the dam sequence. Whereas both versions have the apocalyptic rock fight, the TV version follows the beats in the book better. Both versions have Bev having voices coming out of her drain in the bathroom, in the sink, and then a big red balloon and pop blood. But the TV version actually hits it better. It actually does what the book does. Whereas the theatrical version adds hair, and I don't know, to me it just seems kind of overblown. Now the theatrical version had stuff that they didn't have in the TV version. That's from the book, like the house on Newbolt Street and the leper. So I thought that was kind of cool, honestly. And they had Patrick Hockstetter, who I still think was a very big missed opportunity, because if you read the book, Patrick Hockstetter is a fucking raging sociopath. Like, he is the walking definition of Me Too. Oh, and he also kills animals. But that's all I'm going to say about him, because I really think if you haven't read the book yet, you should read it. And then when you get to him, you understand what I'm saying. And also, his death is amazing. It was something I always wanted to see in the like live action version of that. So there's those two right there. And the way they defeat Pennywise the first time in the movie version, I prefer it. They have essentially magic stones. Like, it's more mythical in a way. It's like it has more of a story, like a fairy tale story time thing, which I just prefer. Whereas in the theatrical version, they go gangland on them, which I'm not a giant fan of. Really, mainly because I don't know why. Like, in the theatrical version, he doesn't get enough damage done to him where in my head, they would think he was dead. As opposed to the TV version, like, he gets cracked in the head and lights pouring out of his head. And then he basically jumps into a drain. And then they hear him gurgling and dying. Like, to me, that makes sense. Like, I don't know why, it just feels better. And last but not least, it's the ending. It's where they make their pledge to come back. They promise. Both versions get it really well. Do it really well. So I'm not like both versions do it well. The theatrical version is more like the book. They cut their hands, become blood brothers and sister, basically. So that's really solidly well done. Whereas in the TV version, they just hold hands and they make a promise to come back. And much like in both versions, Stan's the last one to say yeah. Well, Stan, and at least in the TV version, he's the last one to jump in and say I swear. And my last reason why I prefer the TV version is there's one sequence, one scene that always gets me, and it's where the Losers Club, are in the Barrens, and they're talking about their experiences with Pennywise, like meeting him or whatever, and as the rest of the losers are like kind of in the background, Bill walks. Basically, they do like a kind of a close up, and he's just in there, and he's looking around, and he just says, basically, "You killed my brother George, you bastard. Let's see you now. Let's see you now." And then, so that's really good. But then he just says, like, basically, he just breaks down and says, "Help me." And then the losers come up and they group hug, and to me, that's such a powerful moment. To this day, to me, it's a powerful moment of this kid who wants to avenge his brother's death and to basically save the town. And he's asking for his friends for help, and they all say, "All right." That's why I prefer that group of losers to the theatrical version, just because in the theatrical version they're kind of scattered, like they don't have that unity. At least they don't until Bev gets captured. Then they're like, "Yep, let's go fight." I'm like, no. Like, you shouldn't need a reason, just go. So those are my thoughts, those are my plans. This one's a little long, a bit longer than I anticipated. So for that, I apologize, good kids, but I do hope everyone watches it and enjoys it. And if you agree or disagree with me, leave some comments down below. I want to know. I want to know what your thoughts are. I would love to hear it. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Until next week, catch you on the flip side, kids.